Hi, my name is Stephanie Sinopoli, and this is an intervention based on the informal reading inventory. What is an informal reading inventory? An informal reading inventory is a diagnostic tool, and its purpose is to find the functional reading level of a student. It finds the oral reading capacity, the silent reading capacity, and the listening capacity of the student. It can also help the teacher see the patterns in the students' miscues and help them create instruction based on these miscues. So Jackie was the student chosen for this intervention plan according to the administration of the informal reading inventory. Jackie is a third grader, and her first language was Spanish. Her parents have recently separated, and she lives in an English-speaking environment raised mostly by her brothers and sisters. English is also her dominant language currently. This has also been determined by a bilingual education evaluation that English is her dominant language. As for Jackie's education information, she is currently reading on an independent B level according to Fontes and Pinnell benchmark assessment system. She had a special education evaluation that was bilingual. It stated that she was mostly dominant in English. She also received speech services, which was determined by that special education evaluation. She struggles with CVC words, blends, digraphs, comprehension, and she has a hard time copying things from the smartboard or the board into her notebook. Also, she is very strong in using visuals to help her figure out the meaning of words and texts, so she relies on pictures when reading books. Here are the results of Jackie's informal reading inventory, in which she scored frustration level in A for oral reading, and in silent reading, she also scored in frustration level for primer A. For listening capacity, she scored instructional in primer A and frustrational in 2-1C. Here are Jackie's informal reading inventory oral read results. She scored a frustrational level in primer A. She scored 13 out of 76 miscues on the oral reading of primer A for oral reading. Jackie omitted words, had difficulty with blends or consonant clusters, for example, string. She also guessed the word some for string, which led to her lack of understanding of the text. She did not try to self-monitor to see if some fit in that sentence. She also did not reread the same sentence for meaning, and she got 2 out of 8 comprehension questions correct. Both of these questions that she got correct were literal questions. The following are Jackie's silent read results, in which she scored frustration at the primer A level. Jackie read on the primer level A for silent reading. She scored 3.5 questions for comprehension correctly out of 8, and she had great difficulty answering inferential, how, and why questions. These are Jackie's informal reading inventory listening capacity results, in which she scored first B at the buffer level and level 2-1C at the frustrational level. For listening capacity, she scored 6 out of 8 comprehension questions correctly, and the first B level, in which Jackie scored 5 out of 7 comprehension questions correctly, scoring at the buffer level. She struggled again to answer why, how, and inferential questions. Also, Jackie then tried level 2-1C at listening capacity because she was not frustrated and seemed eager to read on. Jackie scored 4 out of 10 comprehension questions correctly, and she scored at the frustration level. However, Jackie did not use context clues or context or reading from meaning to go back and see if the words she used made sense in the sentence. The following are the implications brought on by Jackie's IRI results. So Jackie needs to work on answering literal comprehension questions, and she also needs to work on phonics. So this is the intervention schedule used for Jackie to help her develop her phonics and comprehension skills. The first type of intervention will be phonics, and the Foundations Level 1 kit will be used for this as a result of Jackie's IRI reading level and her Fontes and Pinnell reading level, which is a B. So the daily formative assessment for Jackie will be the dictation of sounds, words, and sentences on magnetic boards and notebook work. For the Foundations Phonics intervention will be a unit assessment every week or every other week, depending on the length of the unit. This unit assessment is seen in the end of the unit of the Foundations textbook. And the intervention will happen for 30 minutes a day, Monday through Friday. The second type of intervention will be the comprehension. This will be assessed daily as a formative assessment through observation notes, a retell hand worksheet, comprehension questions, and story map worksheets. For the summative assessments of this intervention, it will include Fontes and Pinnell benchmark assessment system. Every 2 to 3 weeks this will occur. And the times this will happen are 20 minutes a day, Monday through Friday. So for the Foundations intervention, Jackie will read, write, listen to sounds, words, and sentences. She will have unit tests, such as the one down here, which will be her summative tests. For her formative tests, she will use these magnetic boards and the student notebook. The unit tests also occur in the Foundations teacher manual over here, and these cards for diagraphs, there are also cards for the alphabet as well, will be shown to Jackie. And lastly, the blends and diagraph helper will be given to Jackie to help her master using specific blends. For the comprehension intervention, I created a specific schedule for Monday through Friday. So there will be a teaching strategy, a comprehension strategy, and a formative assessment for each day. For Monday, the teaching strategy will be using Think Aloud and repeated reading to teach the strategy of monitoring for understanding through observation notes. On Tuesdays, the teaching strategy will include Think Aloud and repeated reading again so that Jackie can read the same text with those. The comprehension strategy addressed will be retell, and the formative assessment will be the retell handwork. On Wednesday, the teaching strategy being used will be Think Aloud and QAR. Jackie will learn how to answer literal questions that are stated within the text through QAR in the teacher's Think Aloud. The comprehension strategy addressed will be monitoring for understanding and pausing to make sure that an unknown word fits in that sentence for meaning. And the formative assessments will be comprehension questions for QAR and observation notes to make sure that the student is monitoring for understanding. The next day, on Thursday, the teaching strategy will be Think Aloud and story map or literature wiping. The comprehension strategy addressed will be retelling, and the student will do this through the story map handout. And then on Friday, the teaching strategies will include Think Aloud again and QAR so that Jackie fully masters using the text to help her answer literal questions. And the comprehension strategy will be questioning so that Jackie can not only look for the answers in the text, but start to make her own questions so that she'll be able to answer the questions that she has a hard time answering. And the formative assessment for that will be comprehension questions for QAR again, and observation notes to make sure that she's using the appropriate words in questioning. So this is a visual of the comprehension interventions and assessments that will be used, that were mentioned in the schedule before. So this is the QAR relationships, or the question and answer relationships. Jackie will be focusing on right there and think and search questions. And the story map mentioned before is here, where Jackie will be use her knowledge of the story in a visual way. Here are comprehension questions that could be asked of Jackie through the help of reading A through Z. These are the observation notes that I would be using, and the reading comprehension strategies such as rereading the text and think aloud that were mentioned are shown here. Also, the benchmark assessment from Fondas and Pinnell is shown here as the summative comprehension assessment, and the hand chart, the formative assessment of the retell, is here. So here are the purposes of the interventions. First off, the Foundations intervention will help Jackie with decoding digraphs, blends, and more, such as those that she struggled with, like string. And the Comprehension intervention will help through the Think Aloud. It will serve as a model for how students should be thinking. The repeated reading is good for fluency, comprehension, and phonics to test accuracy as well. The QAR, Jackie find the answer to literal questions in the text. And story mapping has been proven to increase the comprehension of a text. And monitoring for understanding, the student will check for understanding at unknown words. For retelling, it helps comprehension and answering who, what, and where questions. And for questioning, it will help the student in understanding how to answer questions by making questions. These are the purposes of the assessments and how these assessments fit into the intervention plan. So the foundation tests knowledge of blends, letter sounds, and more. The unit tests are the summative assessments that will test the knowledge of the blends and the sounds in sentences. And the magnetic boards and notebooks are formative assessments in which the students will tap out words and write down the dictations as well. For the observation notes, it will allow the teacher to state whether the student is monitoring for understanding, asking themselves, does that make sense? Or for phonics miscues, and more. The retell hand worksheet helps to answer who, where, and other WH questions, and it helps the student to further understand more texts. The comprehension questions help evaluate whether the teacher's strategies are effective, and the story map creates a visual of the text and answers WH questions. If Jackie does not master these skills, I would like to add context to Foundations interventions by using poems, such as the poem over here, and possibly slowing the pacing of interventions by using maybe one blend per week instead of 2 or 3. Also, to increase Jackie's interest through painting blends, such as people did over here with sight words. Jackie could do this with words that have blends. She could use computer games to spark her interest through IRI and other games. Also, positive reinforcement, such as with Dojo Dollars or more, could help Jackie. And if these further interventions do not work, I would ask a learning specialist's opinion, possibly to have her read with Jackie through benchmarking, as well as see if there needs to be a tier 2 meeting set up based on. So the assessments will further develop lessons and instruction. This will be shown in the Fontas and Pinnell benchmark assessment system comprehension questions at the end of the running records. These questions will state if Jackie needs specific QAR instruction, such as on a specific word like how. If she needs to continue to learn how to read for meaning. In the MSV section, this will show Jackie's ability or remembering to ask herself, does that make sense? To reread or self-correct, and so on. So if Jackie is not showing progress in monitoring or self-monitoring, constantly do a think aloud and ask myself, does that make sense? Purposefully make mistakes when I read aloud texts and have her ask me, does that make sense? To the point where Jackie begins to ask herself that when she comes to an unknown word. And the running records from the Fountas and Pinnell will also show phonics accuracy. I have seen this because the reason why Jackie has struggles to go to the next level is because of her struggles with blends and vowel teams that are seen in higher level texts. And the foundations assessments, such as the formative and unit tests, will show if the instruction needs to be slowed in pace, such as doing only one vowel team a week instead of 3, or doing one blend instead of 2, and so on. So communication is imperative between parents, the teacher, the child, and more in order to help Jackie in making progress in comprehension and phonics. So Jackie's parents will be communicated with through Class Dojo and Talking Points. Both of these provide a translation service. However, Talking Points provides a medium in the middle in case the translation is not correct. A human will get involved once the parent clicks, I don't understand what this means, so that the parent can really understand what the teacher is trying to say. Workshops will also be held with Jackie's mom and sister, and hopefully her brother as well. Her mom, since she speaks Spanish at home, will try paired reading in Spanish if that seems to work with Jackie, or if not, mom can be there as a support with Jackie's sister and brother in working on paired reading. Phone conferences could also be held when Jackie's mom is working, and in-person conferences are also extremely vital in allowing modeling for the parents and teaching them how to paired read, and making sure that the importance of reading at home is stressed. Jackie will also be communicated with as well in monitoring her progress and to see how well she's doing. So Jackie will monitor her progress through knowing her reading level from Fountas and Pinnell, and she will also be given a strategy checklist to make sure that she's using the strategies she has been taught, such as questioning, monitoring for understanding, retelling, and more. And teachers will also be communicated with, such as the speech teacher, ENL teacher, and classroom teacher. There will be a common planning meeting held to discuss Jackie's strengths and weaknesses based on the intervention, and Jackie's progress will also be shown in a line graph based on the assessment data. So the interventions will be linked to the Common Core standards. The Common Core Standard RL 3.1, ask and answer questions to demonstrate understanding of a text, or referring to explicitly to the text as a basis for answers. Jackie will do this through the comprehension questions and through QAR, as well as through the comprehension strategy of questioning. And for 3.3, describing characters in a story, Jackie will do this through her retell and story map. For 3.4, Jackie will use context to confirm or self-correct word recognition and understanding. Rereading as necessary will be addressed in the running record and the miscue section. So it will be addressed in the miscue section of the running record, whether Jackie is rereading for meaning through self-correction or trying to figure out, does this word make sense in the sentence, for meaning. This will be done through self-monitoring as the comprehension strategy. And for RL 3.4, determine the meaning of words and phrases. This will be done through story mapping and comprehension questions. And the 3.3, decode multi-syllable words. This will inadvertently happen through the Fountas and Pinnell benchmark And lastly, these are the references for the intervention plan created for Jackie.